Welcome to Sun, Sand, and Sold. I am Joshua Tomey with David Haber, who is uniquely monochromatic today. We won't.
I tried.
No, it's
and
nice.
I never hear you call yourself Joshua.
I just threw that in.
And I noticed it immediately.
I'm kind of like leaning towards that. Usually Joshua's only when I'm in trouble, but I decided I think I'm going to try it out a little bit and see how it fits.
Schnabby, I don't like that.
Well, look, I mean, you can't.
Not everybody gets to call you that.
You win some, you lose some. So, David, here we are, rapidly approaching summer. By the time our listeners,
I thought we were here.
By the time listeners and viewers are watching this, we're going to be in that crazy.
It's
Miami
90 degrees.
Heat.
It's been 90 degrees every day for the last week.
And it's funny because I was just having a conversation today with somebody and saying, I've been here for 23 years, and every year at this time of year, I act surprised, and I shame myself afterwards. I'm like, why am I surprised it's so hot? It's like I just enjoy the winter so much, and it feels like, what it is? There's no spring. It's like we go from 78 and low humidity to 95 with 100% humidity, and there's no in between. It just feels like it's instantaneous.
I can tell you that Formula One, I didn't go this year, but everybody told me it was brutally hot. First week of May.
But I'm glad you brought that up, because that being said, this is a year-round city. I mean, it's amazing because it's hot but busy. It's not quiet. It's hot, but that's it. I mean, it's like really isn't that seasonal transition that we used to see.
Well, it used to be that everything was before Easter,
right,
for the people to leave. But the fact that you have one of the biggest events of the year that is in May just shows that how many chock full of events South Florida has now that they couldn't do it any other time than May.
Right. I mean, 20 years ago, they said, are you crazy? May, Florida?
Yeah.
And now this year in particular, we got the World Cup in the middle of the summertime and fully expect it to be packed throughout. I mean, as I've been involved in a lot of hotels and condo hotels, and I mean, occupancy is through the roof this year. So it's great.
You and I have tickets to that semifinal.
We do have tickets. And again, well, hopefully it'll be cool enough for us to, because I know you and I will be looking at the weather and saying,
you're not putting me in a skybox kind of.
We are not in a skybox of the World Cup, my friend. I apologize.
Oh, we
are amongst the people where we belong.
Well, we're going to have a great guest today. Someone who is homegrown.
David Burstyn, Miami native. I mean, and there's not a lot of you.
And I know his family very well.
But I'm glad you actually said that, because I think the idea of local is very interesting to me, because there is still a lot to that, right? I mean, I actually find that there is a lot of success based on time and knowledge of a particular space. And not that Miami looks today like it did 30 years ago, but that when you're the witness of its evolution, I think that actually gives you a lot of tactical advantage, because it becomes maybe a little more predictable or a little more understandable to you.
I think that when it comes to development and real estate, lending, construction, the people who are involved in those businesses, whether it's the politicians who have to do public-private partnerships, whether it's the president of banks or lending committees, or whether it's contractors and developers, when they see that you've been stable in a community for 20, 30 years, and they see the history of what you have done, that means more to them than numbers on a page.
Especially when it's a relatively insulated community, which I would dare say Miami still is. I guess one of my questions, and I'm certainly going to talk to David about it today, is almost how long can Miami still stay that way? Because our growth is so off the charts. How long can Miami maintain that sense of community continuity, whether it's, with developers or banks or anything else, before it just becomes a big city where it starts to get a little more faceless?
You say that, but I have a friend, Josh Bernstein, who is from New York.
Everybody in Miami is named Joshua, David. I mean, it's
shout out to my friend Josh Bernstein. In any event, Josh. What's interesting to me is he talks to me about all these New Yorkers that are moving down, and they're all in finance, private equity, real estate. And yet, as big as New York is, it's a little community of these people, maybe 50 or 100 people. So having that experience with him telling me, I know this guy and I know that, and this guy knows this guy, I don't know that it ever will go away.
Right.
In that sense.
Right. I think what's really interesting to me about welcoming David on the show today is he sits on both sides of the proverbial table in the development space.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
He's both a developer with Redwood Development and he is a financier through Winston Capital. And that is not typical, right? So we've had a lot of developers on the show, but it's unusual, not to say they probably don't
private lender, baby.
Private lending, off to the side. But this is somebody who has made a huge piece of his business. They're closing 2025 last year, close to $500 million in private lending. That is not
they're lending to very wealthy people,
right? And that's not small. So I'm very,
and I want to know why wealthy people want to borrow money,
right?
Rather than I know wealthy people who have bought on numerous islands near myself. They just plop down 20, 30 million in cash. It'll be interesting to see why people are borrowing 20, 30, 40 million dollars to build a super luxury house.
Yeah. Well, and again, like everything else, it's the devil's in the details. And I have the feeling we're going to be discussing a little bit of the arbitrage that Winston Capital does in terms of how it makes its money, and also talk about what is a very sort of public relationship that David has with City National Bank, a community bank that's grown a lot over the years.
Client of mine and our firm, and
I think that piece is interesting because I think again there's a repetition to some of these stories about those who came from here and have a very unique perspective on. I mean, David, began his, development career when he was, basically just out of high school. I mean, college age, and has gone from there. And I know his grandparents came here.
But what I like is, and I hope to ask him about, is the issue of, how you get from where he was to where he is. And I think young people today don't realize you got to put in the time. You got to put in the work. There is no cutting corners. And I don't know that today's rapid pace lifestyle with the internet is such that young people really have bought into the fact that it takes time.
Well, I think what we have is a generation of seeking instant gratification and get rich quick, right?
Well, if I could have 50 million Instagram followers, I apparently would be a billionaire because I could sell cosmetics or lingerie or shoes.
What you can't do is be a developer because that requires time and seasoning and relationships.
And that is a great point because without that experience and the track record over and over again through good times and bad and how you react to the bad times, because everybody has bad times, you're not going to be able to get that institutional money. And you're not going to get the public-private partnerships with government because you have to make government look good.
Right.
You have to make those politicians look good, that they did a good deal that helped you and the community.
Yeah. I mean, I work with dozens of developers, and there are lucky deals, but by and large, development is not about luck. It is about hard work. It's about relationships, and it's about having enough time to build that intelligence within yourself that allows you to better prognosticate outcomes, positive or negative. And I think that's a big piece of it because it's a little like being a pilot. One safe landing does not make you a good pilot. 10,000 safe landings might. And the reality is
Sully Sullenberger, that was one heck of a landing. You're a pilot. I'm not a pilot, but I got to tell you, that was the landing of all landings, buddy.
That was an impressive landing. And meanwhile, again,
also impressive is your red, white, and blue outfit, which I would like to borrow from you on July 4th.
You did point out this was, by the way, unintentionally patriotic, but I'm glad that it is.
And we are in our 250th year of this country. God bless this country. And I really don't know that I have a red T-shirt
for it.
I don't think I have a red T-shirt in my closet that cost as much as that $800 red T-shirt.
This is not an $800 red T-shirt.
And
this is from the Gap.
No way. You don't wear the Gap.
He didn't buy it. I'm looking.
I don't believe you. And the jacket that is probably $2,500. This is why I am going to borrow that clothing. And the hot dog and mustard on July 4th. I will try to clean it before I give it back, but I can't guarantee it's going to work.
This is always like when I put the white jeans on I have to actually think, am I going out to eat today? And if I am, it's like, if I'm going to go to Carbone or Contessa, it's like, there's no white pants on those days because it's like the minute red sauce is, I will guarantee it's like a magnet. I mean, it's basically like me golfing with a sand trap. I already know where my ball's going to go.
But it's funny because when we go out, the four of us, you, me, Lisa, and Jesse, Lisa cannot go out to any meal without, by the end of the meal, it being on her clothing. And even when she gets within like 2 seconds of the last bite, it somehow ends up.
It's
always finds its way on.
I'm actually not generally that way unless I'm wearing white pants. Then it's like it's an automatic. In fact, I may actually pre-stain white pants going out to eat just to be like, I know it's going to happen anyway, so I may as well do it now.
When I go to lunch with Hal Lewis, my partner, or Roger Slade, invariably they come back with their dress shirt, and they're like, but it's not like one stain. It's like there are spots. Freckles. It's like freckles, and I'm like, how did that happen?
So I have a friend from up north who is an investment banker. He's very well dressed, always to the T's. Actually, has given me a lot of my early advice on fashion. And he taught me something in my 20s. And he said, push your plate back 3 inches.
See, now that's one way, or you could do the Arnold Haber way, which is to take your napkin,
you do the full
stuff it inside your collar, and look like you're about to go to work. I was going to say on your dinner. Which as a Haber, I can tell you, it's going to work.
As a witness to the Haber family, I can tell you that it is going to work. In fact, it's maybe war. Is it better? It's like
You've seen me go after a lobster.
Yeah. All right. I mean, well, if we're going to go down the non sequitur route, I mean, David and I on a trip to Newport, Rhode Island, sort of lobster central. We're sitting beautiful dockside restaurant. We're having our Stoli Dolies. David ordered the 3-pound Maine lobster, beautiful lobster. And I'm waiting for him.
And we had people with us.
Oh, right. I'm waiting for him to bring up, do this right. And,
the thing to crack it with.
I mean, do you ever watch the Seinfeld episode, the man hands episode, where he's dating a woman who's got manly hands and they go out for lobster and they're just a close up of her tearing the lobster apart? This man went through this lobster like a machine. I mean, the cracker stayed like nicely tucked in at the side of the table. This was just hand surgery. I mean, it was actually a spectacle. I stopped eating. I just had to watch.
But our other friends looked at me, and at the end of the thing, they said, it's true. I've never seen anybody do that to a lobster.
It was actually the only word for it was violent. I mean, it was actually the lobster was already dead, but you kind of still felt bad for it. It's like, what did he ever do to you? I mean, this thing was this was a if there were lobster horror movies, this is like the Saw of lobster horror movies. I mean, it's at that level.
So if you're going to go out to dinner with me and have a lobster, just be prepared.
If you're going to have to take him to sushi, it's just a lot less to have to take in during that moment. I mean, I don't know that I'm like, my appetite probably wasn't great that night.
No, all of you guys were laughing so hard at the end of that meal. You're like, that was impressive. I think one of the comments you made was, you were into that lobster up to your elbows.
I mean, it was. I mean, it was. I'm not going to go too much further down there. It's going to lead us down a dark.
All right, let's go back to David Burstyn.
But I think when we're talking, I'm going to have a really hard time getting the lobster out of my head now. But I think when we're talking to someone like David, to me, what's the most fascinating is, though he's very successful, this is not the typical developer route, right? This is not, even though he's got a lot of things that a lot of developers' early experiences, family, whatever have you. The approach he's taken, so much of it is driven through affordable housing. So much of it is driven through lending. This is not,
but they're opposites. You have affordable housing, and then you're lending.
And that's what I mean.
You're lending on India Creek. You're talking about two completely opposite ends of the spectrum, and he's doing both successfully.
He is, and that's what is so fascinating to me, because again, there's sort of the more middle ground, which is typical, is you're going to be building the super high rises and the branded condos or whatever have you, and he's taken an approach that's actually much quieter. It's not, he can't keep it quiet anymore because he's
success breeds.
Right. It's prolific. But I have the feeling that, said differently, David Burstyn is probably the future of development, because what we know is what he's doing is he's being successful. He's taking advantage of a market that needs what he has to sell, but he's also solving a problem. And you and I have had so many conversations.
That's on the affordable side.
But again,
on the other side, I want to know what white glove service means.
Yes, and I will definitely be asking him that, because again, when you hear white glove service with capital finance, it's like, okay, what is that? What does that mean?
White glove service used to go to Sandals or one of these places, or you go on a ship, and they say that you have a white glove butler service. Right. So I want to know white glove lending is like.
Yes, and does it include the full 4 o'clock tea service? And all of that. David,
maybe they give you the fancy pen to sign with, like when presidents sign a bill and they sign it into law. They always have like 15 or 20
like a memorial pen, right?
A memorial pen. So maybe they have like one of those Mont Blanc memorial pens and they give them out. Maybe that's part of the white glove service. And if that's the case, you know me, I'm asking for a free pen.
There's no question you will. I'm going to go and say it's going to be different, because I think white glove in that context means giving the wealthy borrower the one thing they cannot independently buy any more of, and that's time. Because I think
that's a great
because
that's
I think
a great
I think
point.
that is ultimately the costliest form of capital in real estate is time. You can't buy more of it, and you always need more of it.
And interestingly, after the crash in like 2008 and the lenders having had such problems, the amount of forms you have to fill out, the time involved, the crossing the T's, the dotting the I's, even people with a lot of money.
Even down to a simple residential mortgage, a 30-year mortgage. I mean, it's equivalent.
Like
it's equivalent to a super audit. I mean, it's everything.
They
Right.
want to slice you open and check your blood.
Right. The robo mortgage days are long behind us. Yep.
But I can understand then why, if you are a uber wealthy person and you want to borrow $30 million, you want someone who's going to be able to do the deal in 15 days. And the average bank is, you're lucky it's 45 and it's usually 60.
I see it on commercial deals all the time, even small ones. I mean, what used to be a 30 or 45 day close, I mean, there's just not a chance in the world you're going to get it done in that. I mean, those kind of contingencies, are unaffordable. And I have the feeling we're going to hear more about that on that end.
I'm excited about interviewing him.
Likewise. And David, before we go to break and welcome David, I'm interested, I see your firm in the news. I see other firms in the news. I feel like we are moving towards a little bit of developer come up, and we're seeing some of these what were over the last 4 or 5 or 6 years, some of the marquee, the highlighted developments, the condos, branded or otherwise, and we're starting to see some chinks in the armor, some cracks in the wall, no pun intended. And I'm curious from your professional perspective, without naming specific cases, is this the tip of the iceberg, or is this just par for the course because so much more development has taken place?
I think there are a couple of different answers to that question. One is there's a lot of focus right now on what was in the brochure versus what you're getting.
So that's the sort of material representation or misrepresentation orientation.
I think that's one big issue that is starting to rear its head. I think the second issue is everybody wants into this market, and you have those with the track record who will presumably build more responsibly, and those who don't have the experience and are in it, to make quick money. And are they going to stand up and do the right thing?
Right.
And I think the third thing is, you said it best, time is money for real estate, right? Get it up, get it built, get it sold. And because of that, I think quality of construction suffers, because there is such a pressure in our market, this market in South Florida in particular. Get it up, get it sold.
Get the heck out of Dodge.
Get the heck out of Dodge. And I think inherent in that time crunch is the problem that causes construction problems.
And I would opine, both from a professional seat and asking you as a professional on the legal side, I think, and I'm curious if you think, that because the construction is also getting larger significantly and more complex from a design standpoint, that actually becomes a multiplier of these issues, because it's one thing when it's 20 stories, another thing when it's 40, it's another thing when it's 60 or 80 or 100.
Try 100.
Right. And to then say these issues become more substantive, literally and metaphorically, because you're talking about a scale that this region has not seen before. These have not been tested historically.
And the other thing is, if you look at buildings in New York that are superstructures, you see a lot of steel welding. You don't see pour concrete.
I was going to say
steel welding.
Right.
And you have unions with union labor, and that's what they're building. Down here, there are not a lot of unions. The people who pour concrete formwork are not someone who is highly skilled per se.
Right.
It's dangerous work working on these high rises. It
Right.
is dangerous work. And every so often, unfortunately, you see a major tragedy, a death, or a bad injury, like they had on the 395 project that they're working on now. So with that, and
that sounds like you agree that with this supersize comes
we're gonna have super problems,
right?
And it'll be interesting to see how we as lawyers, how government, how contractors, and how developers are going to deal with the problems that come with these superstructures. And I agree with you; it's going to magnify, multiply, and increase the problems that we have.
I'm sure subject of many future of our conversations.
Well, and it'll keep me in business for a long time.
God willing. In the meantime, you are watching Sun, Sand, and Sold, listening to Sun, Sand, and Sold with Josh Tomey and David Haber. Join us on all of your favorite social media and podcast streaming channels. We'll be right back with David Burstyn.